I call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School Board District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Opens Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Welcome, everyone, to the December meeting. The feeling of Christmas is in the air, just looking around us, so welcome, everybody. We will start off with the reports. And the first one is the history of the relationship of the property tax values to outstanding bonds. Mr. Welch, welcome.
Good evening, trustees. So tonight, if you'll notice, the finance report begins on page 7. And I'd like to provide you an update to a data point that we have been tracking. You've seen this in past years, and I just wanted to bring you an update. This is a look at the comparison of assessed valuation to the outstanding bond debt. You can see that the growth in our TAVs and the issued debt to build facilities to support the enrollment growth as you look at those first couple of columns. The important column for reference is the last column where we see the ratio of debt to our TAVs. This provides us some predictive level of issuing capacity, and that's so, obviously, as we're looking as our bond program progresses, we've, been keeping tabs on that. And you can see the history where the district has worked to pay down that debt in anticipation of issuing debt for the big upcoming projects like Eagle Mountain High School. Obviously, getting the debt level, that ratio down to a point that it can sustain taking on some larger issuances has been a goal and has been achieved, as you can see in that far column. We do have a few placeholder estimates for 2021 and 2022. You can see there in the bottom rows. Those are our anticipated increase in the ratio, and again, we've been planning for that. And while those are estimates, understand that the actual capacity and what we're able to do is going to be based on a combination of either the actual property value growth. I mean, we don't know what that's going to actually be, so that's going to be a major factor, as well as what's going to happen with the market rates at the time. And again, we're continuing to look at our cash flow needs to see what our actual needs are going to be for the period beyond, or that the issuance will fund. So those things are still to be determined as we get closer to a time frame. So we, as far as next issuance, we anticipate that next issuance will be in that upcoming probably summer of 2021. And so we're looking at that target time frame, and obviously that's going to follow us receiving our May estimates from Chain Appraisal District, and that's going to be our big indicator of what we can issue. And in fact, if you will recall, back in the summer and the spring, going back a little bit further, we looked at multiple scenarios of what tax rate compression could offer or work with, and working with our tax rate and what we might be able to do with the INS rate, and then provide us in the way of capacity. And at that time, we didn't make any real changes because our property values, we didn't see the appreciation on the existing properties that we thought we would see. And so we're hoping, as I provided here in the 2021 and 2022 estimates, I only showed a 5% increase in those levels as a placeholder. I'm hoping that's a very conservative look as we get into the spring, and I'm hoping that we'll see a rebound of those of the property values, and we'll see that growth come up. We'll also have to be very cognizant of what might come out of the legislature. That's one of my concerns, is will that impact tax rate compression in our options during that time. So again, that was a piece that we wanted to, again, let you know we're continuing to track that. The other interesting thing with this particular piece that we're tracking, is that while this has been looked at for several years, the school first indicators, there's a new batch of those coming out and new criteria for school first ratings. This is very similar to a new criteria that is coming out. And so being able to watch this and see this happen, while it's not the exact measurement, we're looking in to find out where all those data points are, but it's a very similar ratio of what they're looking at in the way of what the district's outstanding debt levels are compared to its reliance on property values to pay down that outstanding debt. So we're looking at that. That'll be something that we will bring back with additional information as we learn more on that indicator. But no, as we wanted to show this, let you know that we're watching it, and obviously the actions that were taken in prior years, you can see that action taking place to get that level down, so we're ready to take on those larger issuances that we'll need for the next series of projects. So anyways, just an update from that standpoint. And then next month, we'll be bringing you a budget update as well as looking at historical comparison of fund balance.
One question on the estimated new money of the bonds issuances in 21 and 22. If the TAVs reflect what you have, at least which that as a minimum there, will our INS cap that we have there, that without having to raise people's taxes, are those 70 million and 85 million pretty representative of, we'll have that ability, that room in the INS area to, if the TAVs reflect what you put?
What we have right there is the 5%. I think needs to be a little closer to 7%, but that was before we've seen the big drops in the interest rate. So at 5%, this might still work without having to adjust the INS. But again, there's a lot of inputs into that equation that are still to be determined.
But if the TAVs go up what you've estimated there,
yes,
at the conservative side, will we have that availability to cash in 70 million and $85 million in bonds?
I see us being able to do that. We may have to adjust a little bit with our with tax rate compression occurring. We may have to adjust between M&O and INS rate a little bit there. We still have 5 pennies on the INS side to work with, and that's all going to be contingent upon now the interest rates. If we're only at 5%, we've got to hope that those interest rates come in a little bit less, and then we might be able to hold the line right where it's at. But if they come in above 5%, I think we'll be in good shape.
Well, and tax rate compression is the challenge, because when, of course, the bond election was successful, we didn't have the compression we have now. They've gone back in and compressed that, and then the caps and all that. So our goal is to keep it to 45-cent INS. I mean, that's our goal. That's what we're working towards. We know that at some point, as variables change, we may either want to move beyond that capacity like we've talked about before, or we may be compelled to, depending on what happens this session. There has been some talk about tinkering with the INS, but typically they've left it alone. And so we're very hopeful that they don't. You did mention the M&O. In previous years, we've been able to use some M&O dollars to go over to the INS to keep that overall rate down. And so we're open to that as well if possible.
Yeah.
So we're still, I guess, to have the 50-cent test. Are we anticipating the legislature will change that in any way, or have you heard any?
I haven't heard any action on the 50-cent test at this point.
Every time it's brought up, including last time I heard about it, maybe 6 weeks ago, there doesn't seem to be any appetite to adjust the 50-cent debt test. And if anything, they want to keep it because now, of course, we're under different guidelines for the bond elections that include some very difficult language in there. So I don't see any appetite there for making it easier to issue additional debt. If anything, I think it'll become more restrictive. I don't think they'll go below 50, but I don't think they'll adjust
raise
it.
Yeah,
No.
they're coming off.
And then this percent ratio of outstanding debt to TAV, is there a goal or a danger sign that if that got to be over, whatever, 10%, 9%, would that be a warning sign to us, or
I
do
believe,
you?
yes, yes.
So what would that warning sign be?
The 9 to 10%, as you mentioned.
Is that- okay.
That's where I think that we would see our capacity is going to be limited.
It's probably related to the 50-cent test somewhat, so.
A little bit.
I mean, so if it gets up that high, then we're probably gonna be bumping our head on the 50 cents.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, our ability to tax and be able to make our debt schedule will be limited at that point.
There seems to still be a healthy new construction going on, so.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is a positive that, I know 5% of 10 billion is harder than 5% of 9. So I mean,
Right.
obviously that's to keep growing exponentially to get to that 5%. But it looks like it is. I guess we'll know in May, right?
Indeed, but I do believe, we are continue to see that the new construction growth continue to escalate. And so now if we just get the appreciation of those existing values to hit the market around the counties around us, then, and what we've seen in the rest of the state, then I think that would be, that would help solidify where we need to be.
Well, and I think also since a significant amount of our new bond debt is tied to new schools, there's a relationship there. New schools are built for new homes bring value. And so it's, I think that's one reason why we've seen that percentage go down overall, is that a lot of what our latest debt's been is for new students. So new schools, and I'm not particularly worried that number will get up to 9 or 10. I think we're going to get new kids or new homes. Mr. Welch probably will talk about, just like we heard in our demographic report, the number of new homes, which of course, I think there may be a rebounding in the TABs this year, but I shouldn't count on that yet, because we know sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but logically it should with the number of homes that we have being built in the district.
I agree.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Right, next is operations report and a construction update. Mr. Cleet Welch. Welcome.
Okay, first, talking about the construction, look at our projects that are currently going on. This is Boswell High School, and just looks like a lot of dirt, but this is really what I mean, it's the old bleachers, grandstands, where the press box is located. So they dig it out, they moisture condition, they bring in the dirt, they compact it, put moisture, and then test it. So that goes all the way down the length of, from what, the 5-yard line to the 5-yard line.
They find those old concrete bleachers under there?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff underneath there.
I bet there was.
So, kind of a treasure trove of good stuff. And again, this is kind of another picture. This is, the one on the left, the bottom left is still the press box area where they kind of show that was going on. Then you start looking at the plumbing, and that's the new plumbing over there that's going in next to the gymnasium, the gymnastics building. So again, you find stuff all in that area also. This is the new walk path that will be coming out from the main building into the new athletic dressing area. And you can see where it starts to, has the split level. So that's the gymnastics, all the new dressing rooms, coaches' offices are at that level. And then the athletic compartment, first level is at the lower part. So it's kind of a split system there. And we have a slab down with the CMU block. And currently, this is about a week and a half old, so the CMU block is well underway in the varsity and JV locker room area. I guess the bottom left, if you look where that ladder's located, that's where they had that fire that they were welding up on top of there on that embed plate, and those sparks went in behind that, and that's what got that smoking. So they've gone in and refurbished all that over the break. And I think about the only thing we had to replace was little cubes into the pit. And so be it, we just brought brand new ones about a month ago, but they had to repay them and get us some new ones. But the big mats and all that were cleaned up.
That's good.
The far right was kind of that hallway that never went to anywhere. So that's the one we're recapturing with storage, and it was stated that also some restrooms would be closer, so we're trying to that's kind of where that'll go in there, and hopefully that'll work out for the folks there, because they do have a lot of equipment they have to store, and sometimes it was outside or in their dressing room area. And this goes down the Newcomb Gym, down the length of it, east and west. And that's just the grade beams that are going in and support all those, the walls going up 42 feet.
Will there be space between those two
A
buildings?
little bit,
What's
they're
gonna
two
be?
separate buildings.
Not going to tie me in any way.
And it's just, it's still amazing how you can see all the rebar there and all the pilasters. It's just amazing how much strength is in that building. It's like it's a large commercial grade building. It's really something else. This was moving on to Lake Country Elementary. So this was when they first started bringing in the joist off the truck. That was for the kitchen and the cafeteria area, and they show how they lifted it in. In fact, the lift of the crane is in the gymnasium at that point, so they were able to use that because the tilt walls aren't up for the storm shelter. That comes in next month. And just a little bit of concrete pour, and so we've got about probably 85% of that complete, and still lack the northern part, and that's kind of tied into the retaining wall and getting that backfill. Just another example of how much, again, you can also see the elevation change. It's just pretty dramatic. It's not a flat site as far as when you're going on the concrete and how you're going to be driving. So you're up high, you're on a slope, then you come down. So it has a lot of play in it. The one on the right, the top right, is your front door, the entryway, and they're working on the back stairwell to be able to tie the library and the main administration together. And this is down by the pond. So there's two different wall sets. The one to the left is the retaining wall that is concrete. It has a big footing underneath it. And that's for the detention pond located there on the left. And then on the right is the retaining wall. Just pictures of the cafeteria, some of the steel work. You see the beams and the joist and the decking. And then the thing on the right, that's your elevator going up. And some just ICF construction, CMU in the kitchen, yes, kitchen area. Kind of same, there's a welder working on there, putting the welding into the embed plate, and some more kitchen work, a restroom area. And then moving out to the maintenance barn, that's one of the, once you get the framework up, that's when they start skinning it, and it works fairly quickly. But again, this one, if you notice, it's two different buildings also. So you'll get through there through the little garage doors. So that gives them more structure. You don't have to worry about getting different systems and tying the buildings together. So it's just the best way to put that together. So it's all enclosed now, and maybe the last part of the roof's going in. And the one on the right just kind of gives you an idea that you see the ones that have the downspouts, and then you see the one that's not, so you can see the massive amount that's been added to that to help us with the curriculum, textbooks, technology, child nutrition, and a little bit more maintenance storage. And security upgrades that we've been working on for a while. Some of that hardware is going to begin going in this winter break. And so we'll start over where we started at the beginning, and they'll just keep working through that progression. And hopefully we'll have most of that done when we get back in January. If not, it'll be done in January. They see no reason why, that you see anything that will hold that up. There's always some bugs in it once you start trying to retro it, but we feel like we're getting along on that part of it. And tonight will be, for y'all's consideration, a general contractor for the central office project. We continue to work on Eagle Mountain High School the next 2 days. We have meetings back to back, gaining insight to make sure that we heard from our departments, make sure that we heard, the BOK heard what was said, and we were able to incorporate that if possible. And the wayside, we're still working on that. We have a meeting on that this week. So when those TABs come in, he's left, but Wayside will be prepped and ready, so October, if those come in correctly and we have the ability to do that, then that project will be able to launch and go at that time. So that's kind of our timeline we're looking at. It's always the October deadline for us is kind of jumping off time. I went through pretty quickly. Any questions over there?
So is the timeline for central office would be 2024?
It'll start notice to proceed in January, next month. And so there's a couple different schedules, but really spring break to April of 22.
Oh, 2022.
Yeah. About a 14 to 16 month, different people bid it differently, but it's one of the few projects you have where you don't really have you don't have to get the start date of school.
Oh, that's, yeah.
So that was different. So we made them bid the true project instead of an artificial date. They had to bid how they wanted to bid it to gain the
When
points.
they get it ready.
Yeah. So a little bit different.
That'll fit in, okay with the Wayside's, plan.
Yeah, we feel good about that.
Okay.
You know, it'd be nice to, you know, again, the sooner that we can implement Wayside, the more, there's more money we're going to have to utilize for other projects. So that would help us with inflation. And if we got I think we'll still be okay with that. But if we say something happened where we overlap, we'll still be able to accommodate that. We do have a plan for that if that ever happened. May not be ideal, but there are locations. So
That would leave Eagle Mountain High School last in that scenario.
when will it? It'll bid out in August. I think construction is slated for October of 21.
Okay.
So we'll have a large amount of we do have to have a lot of bonding capacity with that project going on. We have to be very careful because after about the first 8 months, then it'll start drawing down, you know, $60 or $70 million a year. It takes a lot. As soon as they get all the groundwork. When we're looking at that project, we're looking at 2 phases on that. I mentioned kind of I should have said this. What I just mentioned is the main building. We're going to propose that we're looking very hardly at an offsite package, which is your utilities. So basically your roads, your water, your sewer, everything that is off the piece of property that we own. So it's your roads that you turn over to the city. So if you remember, it's really, we bid the project, they manage it. We hire the contractor, but as far as that, the city inspects it. They tell you how you're going to do it and so forth. So that's about a roughly $6 million job. So if we put that under a utility contractor, then that wouldn't go under the scope of the big general on-site package. So that's another way you could put it underneath if we needed to, if it was complicated, but it's pretty straightforward in our belief there. So that'll save us some cost, just pass-through costs that we would avoid. So that's roughly about $250,000 if we go about that way, and we started earlier. And
Will we have a road to tie into, or is it just gonna dead end, I guess like Saginaw did when it started?
yeah,
Rider Drive just ended, now it goes all the way through to Saginaw.
we've been, it'll dead end, I believe, until the park, the city of Fort Worth builds their part of that little section, or the developer. The developer, I believe, is going to build it, but they have to get permission through the park board to be able to push that through there and tie it into Eagle Mountain Parkway, I believe is the name of it. So we'll build our 2 lanes in there, then the developer will come in and build the remaining. So that'll be a project on that one. Then on the Bonds Ranch Road, that'll be 3 lanes. So we'll have a turn lane that we'll put in, and the other 2 lanes, they'll be concrete, the length of our property. But we also have to bring in a water line from Business 287.
Wow.
So that's, I don't know, 8,000 feet, and it has to go all the way to the front, of our property. So that's the part that we have to supply. We don't need that much water, so the city will help a portion of that because we don't need a 16-inch line. We just need a 12-inch line.
We get a tap fee or something as they run it on down the road? Or?
Well, I don't know how much money we're going to get back from it,
Yeah,
but it's,
okay. We probably will, but it won't be much.
no, it won't be for the amount we're paying. But the city still has to bring up from 287. They have a very large main that they have to bring up. So we have to make sure that's coordinated. And then if it's not coordinated, which means they haven't designed their part, we can already have ours in. You know, the bottom line is we have to have water.
Yeah.
So there is a water line on the north side of Bonds Ranch Road. We're putting it in on the south. There's already one currently on the north, which goes to a different pressure plane. But we will, if there's a problem, they have said that we will be able to tap into that so that we can work on our construction.
Okay.
So shouldn't impact that, but an opportunity to get ahead.
The thing about Saginaw High School when it started, you know, that it Rough Rider dead ended, and now we got a road that goes all the way to the freeway on the other side of the campus. On the,
And it sure helps it toward the end when you get those roads, the traffic flows a lot better that way. Easier for buses to get in there.
and after 10 years, they're finally redoing 156 like they told us they would when we built the school.
It's getting closer.
Yeah.
They keep finding every bit of our irrigation over there for sure.
I bet.
So,
All right, anything else, Clete?
that's it.
All right, thank you. Next is a maintenance update, Mr. Charles Hamilton. Welcome, Charles. Sorry, Clete took all your time, but it's okay. You want the podium clean before you come up there? You good? You want the podium clean? Hold on a second, let's clean it. That's what we've been doing. Whether you want to or not, we're gonna do it. All right, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to go through our maintenance update coming up for this spring and summer. And so some of the projects that we're going to be looking at taking care of is Boswell High School, going to be first on our list. And there's some louvers that overhang the windows along the library. We're going to get those cleaned and retrofitted or whatever needs to be. But some of them look like they've got some scratches and stuff on them. We'll work on those. The roof of the library also needs to be cleaned based on some of the construction that's taken place over this past year. It's gotten considerably dirty. And so we're going to, as soon as that construction ends, and we'll get a company out there to try and get that cleaned off. Also at Boswell, we're going to do a lot of painting on the exterior. As you can see, some of these doors on the right, they get really faded by the sun. Then fingers and hands and everything else get on them, so they look a little rough. So we'll get those, and then there's some interior doors as well, as you see on the left, and some door frames that we're going to touch up and get those cleaned up as well on the inside, with a main focus along the fine arts facility on that west end of the campus. Remington Point has a unique situation. They got a couple of trees in the back, and based on the position of the building and the sun and everything, it's really difficult to grow grass in these areas. You also have children running around and walking on it as well. It's really difficult to grow in there. So we've got a project put together. We're going to go in there and put some dirt, soil back in there and level that off and kind of turn that into a sitting area, so to speak. It won't be grass because we just can't grow anything in there. So we'll kind of fill that in, put some mulch and border it, maybe put a couple of benches out there and kind of turn that into an area that can be utilized other than just sitting there and looking like this. So
I can't really picture where that is. So is that like a
it's on
playground, or is it just a cut through from one building to the other?
It's on the way to the playground in the back.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
That's
on
why the
the
kids are cutting across.
backside by the bus loop, and it's just in an unusual corner where it's just completely blocked from sunlight. So the tree does well, but underneath it, it's very difficult to grow anything.
It's like the roots are coming up a little bit. Is that what that is?
Yes, and we're seeing this in a few different places where our trees are more mature now. When they were planted, it really wasn't an issue, and as they get more mature, really trimming them too much the tree itself would.
Yeah, they appear to be healthy, the trees do. So once we put some dirt back in there, that'll help the tree as well, but then we'll just put some mulch and put a border around that such that it can be utilized to sit in or go and read or do whatever you want to, but we don't have to worry about maintaining the grass area in that section.
Yeah. Well, there's not any grass in that section.
Yeah, or trying to maintain anything we put back.
Yeah, okay.
It's hard to see, but it starts right there in the sunlight, which is probably makes sense, right? Because if there's sun, there's grass, and so it's really these areas, and so he's targeting some of these areas throughout the district that we've seen some issues like that. I think we have a little bit of this at the back of Prairie Vista, I remember correctly.
Yes,
and,
the exact same situation exists behind Prairie Vista, where they have a corner back there that's just very difficult to grow.
So as we're building Eagle Mountain Elementary, we're going to try not to put a situation like this.
Right.
And tell the architects this didn't work.
Right, our landscaping plans on our new elementaries really don't have this particular problem. Even with the mature trees, they're farther away from the building. It is, to some degree, the nature of trees, period. You know, you plant them, they create shade, and and when they're near a building, they're more noticeable. You know, when they're away from a building, like near the Hollenstein, you really don't notice that there's not much grass under there. But here, where you have traffic, it's an issue. But I would say our current prototype for our elementary school is really not an issue, nor is it an issue for our middle schools, because they use junipers and some other kinds of trees there that really don't have the shade factor that you have.
Yeah, this tree, and there's one next to it, the top end canopy is just really, really large. And it's the type of tree that they put in. I'm not sure we're utilizing those again, but this particular situation, it's just got a very large canopy on it. Very difficult to get any sunlight in the morning like you normally would. Okay. Hafley Development Center, we're doing, again, some painting infrastructure along the exterior doors around the outside. We have about 3 of these blue traffic gates that are in need of some touch-ups, so we're going to paint those and make sure those are all balanced out and they close and operate properly. Saginaw Elementary, again, the same situation where we've got a lot of doors on the exterior. We have different colors of doors. Just over time and through expansion, they've got different types of painting on them. So we'll get all that corrected, get it uniform. Same on the inside. We've got some doorways on the inside that need to be touched up. They've just been rough over the years with carts and various things hitting the bottoms of them. They get really chipped up. So we'll do the frames and a lot of the doors, and we'll try to unify the color scheme inside those hallways so that it all looks the same color. Saginaw High School, and we had this at a couple other campuses, just due through years of consolidation and the ground around it sinking, you get these pads around the water valves and they start to look like they've heaved up, and actually it's the ground around it is sunk down. So we'll go through and get those they'll break up the concrete, readjust the heights, and then they'll put the concrete pad back around those so that those all get corrected and they don't get chipped up with mowers and various other things. So that's one that will get done as well this summer.
They already completed a project similar to this, although it wasn't water related. I think it was electrical at Wilkie.
Yes.
And so as we see these projects, it's really, honestly, it's pretty exciting that we're at this level of specifics that we're addressing these. We fixed these before, but now we're actually fixing these in our normal M&O capital improvement cycle versus going to a bond or something like that. So as y'all see things, if y'all notice something that wonder if it's on our list, please let us know. Charles, me, or Cleet know, because we are aggressively hitting these kinds of things. And there's a number of them. They're usually, I'll say, relatively small to the whole building. But of course, if you don't address them, they'll accumulate. So we're trying to get on top of them.
Sure. Saginaw High School is just, for whatever reason, the soil out there is just not very stable. And so we've already worked on the previous slide with Hafley and the traffic gates. We have a couple of those at Saginaw High School that we're also going to be working on as well. We've already corrected one. We've got another one that they start to sag a little bit. So we're going to get all that corrected and straightened up. And then, of course, we'll have several of the campuses where we'll put, we're on about a 2-year rotation for these parking lots to get restriped. The fire lanes have a tendency to fade out fairly quickly, so we'll get the parking lots, the crosswalks, and the fire lanes restriped on probably about 12 or 13 of these campuses this go around. And then the last one that we're going to focus on is we've got a lot of landscape beds that just through time plants have died, and there's gaps and holes that show up in some of these areas. So as the growing season starts to hit, then we'll start tackling those campuses and trying to fill in these gaps and put in some plants and shrubbery that will help make the campuses more aesthetically pleasing and try to fill in some of these holes that we have around. This particular one is high country, and that we've got several of those on the list that we're going to focus on. And again, a lot of it has to do with when the growing season hits. Right now, you may see some of the campuses where we're planting trees, and this is a really good time to plant trees. So as you drive around, you may see some of the landscape company putting in some trees, and that's because this is a really good time to do that. So they'll get those put in, and we're working. I think we had a crew today over at Chisholm Trail High School working on that. So you'll start to see some of that activity take place. Okay, that's the kind of the list that we're working on. Any questions that I can answer?
I'd like to say how much I appreciate, and I know I can speak for all the board people, the job y'all do and your eye for fixing stuff like this, because I can, being around and kind of being part of my job sometimes whenever I was still working in the school business, doing some of the same things, I guarantee there's 80% of the school districts you go to, this stuff here, they've got so many bigger problems. These little things like this, they never ever worry about. And that's the reason their campuses and their school districts don't look very nice. And I think being the aesthetics of it is very important, not only to us, but to the culture of our community, to kids learning, and what people think of our schools. So I just want to tell y'all how much we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well said, Tim. Thank you, Charles.
All right, thank you.
All right, still under operations, report 3, we have a bond update. Mr. Billy Kidd. Welcome, Billy.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Chadwell, members of the board. I know that Cleet shared with y'all obviously our good projects that are going on, and I wanted to visit with you tonight regarding the next phase of many other projects that we'll be tackling that are in the bond 2017 bond. So as was identified in the board agenda, that identifies the campuses and the description of the work that's going to be going on at each campus. There are actually 66 projects that we will touch on 20 district campuses, 13 of those elementaries, and 3 middle schools and 3 high schools. These projects were grouped into 9 categories in order to provide best value for these projects. These 9 categories are construction, and those include items like adding sidewalks and ramps, door replacements, masonry work and ceiling work, fencing, adding campus property boundary fencing, as well as some screen fencing for wells, furniture, fixture, and equipment. That would be things like replacing auditorium seating, some choir risers, cafeteria tables, gym bleachers, wrestling mats, floors. That would be refinishing of gym floors or possible replacement of flooring, carpet, VCT, etc. Landscape improvements, and those would be improvements to the front campus as well as to some of the courtyards in the district at Eagle Mountain and at Gilliland. Lighting, that would be replacement of lighting and upgrades in gyms, corridors, and cafeterias. Playgrounds, that would be improvements and additions to the playgrounds that we have as well as repairs. Theater, stage lighting, stage curtains, and a new orchestra pit at Boswell High School. And then turf, that would be the adding of synthetic turf at Chisholm Trail and Saginaw High Schools to their baseball and their softball fields. Several of these categories, because of the cumulative cost, will be advertised as an RFP. The district is working on writing these specs to post to the RFP to buy board. The total cost of these projects are not to exceed $9 million. And this concludes this report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
9 million was what was in the bond. That was what was accumulated total for these projects.
Yes, sir.
And so 9 million or under is
the target.
Is
yes,
the target. It's a lot of different things. Is that going to happen over the summer, you said?
You know, we're going, as we get close to posting these on buy board for the RFP, especially the ones that we think that we're going to have to package will be the lighting upgrades and the landscaping and the playgrounds because of the cost of those. So we're hoping to get those RFPs out maybe in January, get those proposals back in for February, And then depending on the project and the time and schedule for each of them, we may can go ahead and start some as early as spring break. But then the majority will be summer.
And those will come to the board for approval
Yes.
because of the size. Okay. All right. Thank you, Billy.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, any other questions? All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, still in operations report, we have a power factor correction project. Mr. Dwayne Jones, I think I got that right. I said it slowly and distinctly.
Yes, sir.
Power factor correction project.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. So yes, the operations department and with our energy manager has been reviewing a energy savings project known as power factor correction. And basically what power factor is, it deals with your electrical utility bill. And it's basically a surcharge or a fee that the district gets charged for any meter that is running below a 95% efficiency. So when you go in and you do the power factor correction, you basically install a capacitor where it'll make that power efficient and hopefully get to that 95% rating. So we've just done a very cursory review of our district, and we've identified approximately 20 meters that would qualify for this, that are operating below 95%. We have some as low as, I think the lowest is at 76%. And so this does seem like it would be a good project for us to pursue. Basically, power factor is the ratio between working power and total power. And so you might ask why those are different. And so the easiest way to do it, to explain it, is if you have power coming into any building from the transformer, as it's coming into our load point of the building, it may be coming in somewhat erratic or inefficiently. Currently, with those 20 meters that I'm talking about, when it goes into the building, it goes into our building still erratic and inefficient. So that capacitor is going to clean that up. So when it comes in, it may be inefficient, but when it goes through the capacitor, it comes out and it's clean. So not only do you operate at 95% or better, which does away with the surcharge and the fee, but you also have other positive effects where different equipment that may be in the building is going to be, the lifespan of that equipment may also be increased because it's getting cleaner power from the source. So we've looked at, again, we did a cursory review out of approximately 20 meters. We paid out last year, over a 12-month span, we paid out about $75,000 in fees. So looking at it and talking with a couple other districts that we know have done this project already, we're estimating an investment of around $350,000 to $450,000 in order to secure both an engineering firm as well as a firm that actually will do the installation of the capacitors. Again, these are conservative numbers, but around $75,000 a year that we're spending, $450,000 investment, we're looking at about a six-year ROI. I really kind of think it would be a little bit less than that, but it'd be about a 6-year return on that investment. The good news is that once that investment is paid back, capacitors, the life of a capacitor is usually about 18 to 20 years. And there's no maintenance on them. You basically it's not really a plug and play, but you basically install it and you just basically leave it. So there's nothing really to do to it. But even after we get that payback period, for the remainder of that time that the capacitor's in place, then we'll just be basically saving those funds to do something else with. So really all we're doing tonight is just trying to get some guidance from the board to see if this is something that you would like operations to pursue. Because like I said, we will need to secure an engineering firm to kind of start that process to dive a little deeper into exactly what meters need to be replaced or corrected. So
you'd only be replacing the ones that are showing this lack of capacity or this lack of
Yes, sir,
It's
yeah.
not all of them. How many does this building have we're in, this complex?
How many different
How many
meters?
different meters or capacity?
This building may have as many as 4, depending on how many we go back in the back.
What would the new elementary school, Lake Country, have?
Well, they should only have 1 meter. Well,
Now,
I
think
take
about
that
my
back.
house, that's all I can compare to what you said is, I've got a meter that spins out
Yes,
there.
an elementary school is going to have less. Sometimes when you get into your secondary level schools, they'll have different meters because they may have to put a different meter in for fields, field houses,
Right,
that type of
that
thing,
makes
whatever. But the
sense.
smaller schools, elementary school usually would only have maybe 1 or 2 meters. So out of the 20, yes, we're only going to be touching the ones, and even the 20 that we've identified, just with the energy manager and myself having, had some experience in this, we're just looking at the ones that fall below that 95%. Some of them, if they're close, then it's going to be, we'll have to do a cost benefit analysis. But definitely the ones that are, I would say at least 90 or below, definitely those are definite candidates to have those.
Would this be an ongoing deal like we do with the roofs and the vehicles, that we would have a maintenance or a replacement schedule if they last 18 to 20 years? Then this would be something that would be an ongoing issue going,
Yes, sir. Yeah, we would certainly set it up to where, when we do them all, in this project, it wouldn't be, it is a little bit as far as the installation process, because you have to take the whole school down, and then it's the capacitors installed. So, they can't do a whole bunch of schools at one time, whatever. So it'll take a little bit of time to get them all installed, but yeah, then we would put them on some sort of a replacement.
rotation.
How does this happen in the first place, though? Is this something we have to continually look at these, and they could fall below the 95% threshold as they age, or?
A lot.
The ones that you're gonna identify are gonna be the only ones we have issues with, and so once we do this,
Well, there's a chance that some of the ones that maybe like on the bubble, that they may eventually get to that point. But yeah, it's a lot of times it can be where it's oversized motors. It can be older equipment. It can be the type of equipment. There's a lot of different factors, and some of it, to be honest with you, I have a little bit of experience in that, but I don't have a world of knowledge on that as far as all the different reasons. But the biggest reason probably is due to oversized motors, where it's purposely, some things are put in to where, I'm trying to think of it. So the best example is, like if you were using this building and let's say it took 1,000 kilowatts per hour to run this building. So you would think theoretically that 1,000 kilowatts of power in, you're going to use 1,000 kilowatts of power out, everything's good. Because of either equipment or age or whatever, the power company actually has to deliver, let's say 1,200 kilowatts of power, because it's inefficient going through that load point. So when it comes out, we can have 1,000. We lose some of that power as it's going through. That's the inefficiency part. So there are some that I would say that if they're on that bubble where like maybe we don't, if we do go forward with this and the engineering firm says, right now let's not do these, but yeah, it would be something that we might want to look at in the future. And it would be just something, because the power factor is actually just something, if you know where to look, it's on your bill. But as you can imagine, the power companies, it's kind of buried. It's almost looking at like your cell phone bill. You really don't know what the fee is. It's kind of one of those things. So it's something that's, I won't say it's common that a lot of people are doing or whatever, but once you get the knowledge about it, then a lot of people are taking action on it.
How many do you think we have how many total meters or power do you think we have? You're talking about 20, but does the district have 100? Or I was thinking about how many schools, so if there's 1 or 2 for the middle schools.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how many different meters we have total in the district. We were just looking at, I would say, just as we were going through them, I would say we probably have at least 3 times that total. And then from that, like I said,
I don't ever remember us doing this before. Maybe we did, we just didn't know. Maybe they took care of it because, some of our buildings obviously are I know they've been remodeled, but, you know,
Right.
Saginaw, Blue Mountain, I'm sorry, Gillen, Eagle Mountain, and there got to be over 10, whatever you said the life expectancy was.
Right, well, yeah, I can't, to my knowledge, I don't think we've done this type of project before. But again, there's a lot of different factors as to why, or what causes the power factor percentage to decline. So this is, like I said, for right now, going through the bills, that's what we've identified. So we have actually paid out, you know, those dollars last year, roughly around 75 grand or in that neighborhood. So correcting that would either reduce or eliminate all of that.
So the capacity that you add, is what you said has a 20-year life, a 20 years useful life, so you check those things, but you're applying it to a meter, are those meters, do they last that long? Or is there a chance you're gonna have to replace the meter anyway, so you wouldn't need the capacitor, because you'll replace it with a more?
It's really two different things. Yeah, so I mean, again, to my understanding of electrical components, I'm not an expert in
So
that.
you're
but-
gonna get all, I guess that's what I'm trying to get, you're gonna get all 20 use, you're gonna need 20 years of, it's not like you're gonna replace the other parts that might, like you were saying, some of these are old building parts, you're not gonna end up replacing them as part of the system where that problem would fix itself anyway. That's what I'm trying to get at.
No, I don't think that would be the case.
Well, I think a 6-year payout on the 20, I mean, yeah, that.
I mean,
That's a
that's
good
if you're gonna get 20 years,
Yeah.
it's kind of a no-brainer. If
Yeah,
you're
that's
gonna
a
get
no-brainer.
worth
Okay.
life out of it.
Very good. All right,
Thank
we
you.
will carry forward.
Thanks for explaining that
for
to us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
All right, report D is the Education Services Report. There's 2 of them, and Dr. Dana Barnes.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Wanted to first bring to you is the proposed calendar revision for this school year for 2020, 2021. What we would like to do is add 2 additional half-days to the calendar. And what this will allow us to do is to provide our teachers an opportunity to have additional planning time to meet the individual academic needs for our students during this COVID time. We intentionally scheduled these half-days right before a holiday out of respect to our parents, because we do know that, again, this is a change in the calendar. We normally do not do this. But wanted to not only honor our teachers, but honor our students and our parents as well, with making it as easy as possible concerning work schedules. So as you can see, is what we are asking for is February 12th, which is the Friday before President's Day, and then March 12th, which is the Friday right before spring break. And again, what we are doing is this would be a half a day for our students. And then in the afternoon, it would be an entire afternoon for teachers to be able to do what they need to do, planning, grading, PLCs, designing lessons, again, just whatever is needed to help support our students. With your permission, I would like to bring this back tonight. And again, thinking that this is something that if we do, with your support, are able to move forward with, is that it's in, again, out of respect to our parents as we communicate this prior to the Christmas break.
Well, you'll have another opportunity to ask any questions when it comes up as an action item, but are there any questions that you'd like to address now so that she can be ready for that? Okay. All right, next is the 2021-2022 school calendar.
Yes, sir. So what we are looking at for the next year's school calendar is, as anytime I look at a calendar, I always start with graduation and work our way backwards. And so we were able to, 2 years ago, to design it where graduation would always occur on the last Saturday of May. So then that way parents would be able to predict each year. I'm excited to say that that is still going to occur. So then going back, our new hire orientation You're going to see that on on Monday, August 2nd, Tuesday, August 3rd, but also the 4th, we are still going to have 3 days for our new teachers with their professional learning. But if the 4th is going to be a work day for returning teachers, so our new hires would be in their professional learning. The reason why that is occurring is that if I would have taken it back an additional day, that would have put new teachers coming in July. And that was just something that we did not feel was in the best interest. We want to be able to hire the majority of our staff. So August 4th through the 13th would be our regular returning professional learning. The first day of school would be on the 16th. A focus for this year's calendar, we are very excited, and again, cannot thank the support of our superintendent, is that we really had intentionality of providing a day off and also professional learning for teachers during each month. And so you will find, again, September 6th would be your normal Labor Day. The 7th would be all-day professional learning for our teachers, because again, not pulling teachers off during the school day for professional learning, to where then that way it impacts the students. So being able to follow that philosophy. And then also the end of the first 6 weeks being able to have a half day. Another aspect of our half days with this proposed calendar is that, again, it would be teacher planning time. So there would not be professional learning during the half days. In October, very excited once again to be able to provide a day off for students and for teachers. And then on the 12th, teachers would have a professional learning, full day of professional learning in October. Again, the end of the second 6 weeks in November, teachers would have a planning afternoon. Then we have our normal week off for Thanksgiving. In December, this proposed calendar, the semester would end on the 17th. That would also include a half day where students would be able to be dismissed early on that day. Teachers, again, would be able to have their opportunity to plan that afternoon. And our Christmas break would still continue with our normal 2 weeks off. If we go back up to January, very excited about this, is that our teachers would have a full day of professional learning coming back to start the second semester. And then January 4th would be, again, the beginning of the second semester. Our day off for January would be on the 17th. Half-day planning in February 11th. You are going to see a difference between this proposal and the proposal for this school year. Again, due to the fact that we are asking for a change for this school year, we wanted to again bump that half-day up to a holiday. On this calendar, President's Day is later than normal. It's always the third Monday in February, but because January does not end until that Monday, it forces President's Day down a week. And so that is you are going to see a difference with that month. The 22nd, again, a full day professional learning. And then in March, end of the third 9 weeks, able to again have another half day for teacher planning. The standard full week off for March. Our bad weather day would be April 15th and May 20th. Another half day for teacher work afternoon to get ready to end the school year. So our last day of school would be the 27th and graduation would be the 28th. Any questions concerning the 2021-22 calendar proposal?
Thank you for giving a president's staff off for President's Day to honor the 44 different individuals who led our country. Appreciate that. I think it's overdue, and hopefully we can continue that.
Thank you, Mr. Buss.
Tell me about January the 4th, 2022. So that's the start of
Second semester.
second semester. And is that why it's orange or the different color?
Yes, sir.
Because this, okay, so that's the start of the semester for what, for secondary or
Secondary and
Everybody?
elementary.
and elementary, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, got it. Any questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good timing.
Thank you.
It's currently 6 PM on December 14th, 2020. This board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberating the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, 551.074, purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, 551.075, for the purpose of deliberations regarding deployment or specific occasions for security, 551.082, considering the discipline of a public school child or complaint or charge against personnel, and 551.0821, to discuss specific personal identifying information about a student. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. This board is reconvening the public meeting on December 14th, 2020 at 7:00 PM, and will now consider the subject set forth in the posted agenda. Welcome back to everybody to our public part of our meeting. And to open our ceremonies, we have Wayside Middle School. Dr. Chadwell?
Yes, we have students from Wayside Middle School. As Kirk is getting the video ready, I'll introduce these students. First student is Jenna Davis. She's an 8th grader. Her parents are Crystal Davis and Michael Papianis. She is involved in AVID and student council. Her interests are basketball, volleyball, advanced choir, and helping others. She's a leader at Wayside and very, very helpful. Our next student is Kelsey Hartzell. Kelsey is an 8th grader. Her parents are April and Tim Ballou, Pete and Lindsay Hartzell. She's involved in AVID, volleyball, basketball, math, makeup, and eating. All right, there we go. Next student is Caleb Blackketter. Caleb is in 8th grade. Parents are Ashley Blackketter and Mike Webb, involved in AVID, football, baseball, and basketball, and his stepdad is his role model. It's very nice. Next student is Sophia Barron. She's in 8th grade. Her parents are Vanessa and Carlos Barron. Organizations AVID, volleyball, and track. After high school, she would like to go to TCU, go Frogs, and that was me, pursue a major related to the medical field. Last student is Kate Dodgen. Kate is in 8th grade. Parents are Jennifer and Ben Dodgen. Organizations AVID and club volleyball. She would like to play volleyball in high school and also go Frogs, would like to attend TCU when she graduates. We'll turn it over to Kirk.
Dr. Chadwell, Mr. Newcomb, School Board, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight and introduce to you 5 extraordinary Wayside Wildcats. Without further ado, I would like for them to come and introduce themselves to you.
Hi, I'm Sophia Barron, and I'm an 8th grade AVID student. I've been with the EMS ISD community since 2nd grade.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Hartzell. I'm an 8th grade AVID student, and I've been with EMS ISD since 1st grade.
Hi, my name is Kate Dodgen, and I'm an 8th grade AVID and have been in EMS ISD since kindergarten.
Hi, I'm Caleb Blackketter, and I'm an 8th grade AVID student. I've been with EMS ISD since kindergarten.
Hi, my name is Jenna Davis. I'm with the 8th grade AVID program, and I have been with the EMS ISD school district since 1st grade. On behalf of the Wayside AVID program, I would like to say a few words. First off, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Wayside AVID program. As we all know, Wayside has been through a significant loss of our AVID teacher, Ms. Kennedy. In our district's mission statement, it states that we foster a culture of excellence. Ms. Kennedy fostered a culture of excellence on our campus every day. If you were down, she would pick you up to help you do your best. She was the most helpful, kind, and selfless person I have ever met, which is why we all should live by the hashtag our students created, live and love like Kennedy. Thank you for your time and this honor to speak with you this evening.
Please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now for the Texas Pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And now for a moment of silence.
It is an honor for letting us speak to you tonight. It's like Mr. Fahey always says, it's a great day to be a Wildcat.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge what the student said, and I'm mentioning Ms. Canini. One of my children had her, and she's, as many people know, was remarkable teacher and beloved at Wayside. And so she is missed terribly, and we're so thankful for the impact that she's made on so many children at Wayside. And so I'm glad the kids honored her in that way. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Move now to a special recognition portion of the meeting, and first up is Mr. Sean Bell, Director of Fine Arts, to talk about some 2020 EMS holiday cards.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure to be here tonight and to celebrate two of our very talented visual arts students in the district. For the past 7 years, artwork has been submitted by our students for the EMS holiday greeting card. This year's artwork was submitted by talented Saginaw High School students. We would like to recognize the artists whose holiday scenes were chosen and acknowledge their very talented and dedicated teacher as well. First, the cover artwork. The student who created that artwork is Miss Lamaya Richmond. Unfortunately, she is currently quarantined and not able to be here, but her parents are here, and we would like to recognize them. Lamaya is the daughter of Lashidrick and Joseph Gilly. She is a sophomore at Saginaw High School, and her art teacher is Miss Tara Croft. And I should have brought a card to show you. Oh, thank you, Dr. Parker.
Can they come up and?
Lamaya's artwork is right here. It's, I love the train engine. If you've seen the movie Polar Express, I think she channeled some of her inner Polar Express there. So, Mr. and Mrs. Gilly, if you would come forward, we would like to present this for Lamaya as a keepsake. And we're going to turn and take a picture. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And the artwork on the inside of the card was created by Mr. Ethan Elizarraras. How did I do?
You ducked his
It's
head.
okay, all right. Ethan is the son of Terry and Bobby Elizarraras, and he's a senior at Saginaw High School. And his teacher also is Miss Tara Croft. And I think Ethan could have a job tomorrow with Macy's or Nordstrom's or you name it. I mean, this is beautiful. So parents, would you feel comfortable coming forward? We'd like to get a picture with you. Ethan, it's a keepsake. Thank you so much.
As I smile.
We are. Congratulations.
And just want to thank Mr. Bell for putting this together. Just to let y'all know also that this is, for us, exciting because every year we get to look at these beautiful cards. And this year all coming from Saginaw. So we have no idea what school they're from. We don't know anything about the students. We just see the quality of the product. So just really, really incredible work. So thank you.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. And lastly, we have a presentation for their very talented, awesome teacher, Ms. Sarah Croft. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We did have a card in our place, reminding
Oh, wonderful.
board members that we each had one in our folders, so we got to see it firsthand. It's
Wonderful.
wonderful. Congratulations to the students. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Bell. Next up is a Stand Up for Texas Public Schools Business Award, and Ms. Megan Overman and Ms. Allie Surface.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're excited to bring another business recognition of one of
Ryan.
our star businesses in the community that supports us. Allie Surface, our Education Foundation Director and Community Director of the Education Foundation and Community Partnerships. Let me get that right. And I would like to recognize a leader in the district through our work with TASB businesses supporting the public schools initiative. So Allie?
Thanks, Megan. Okay. We'd like to honor Brian and Shonda, as well as their daughters Lindsay and Lauren, for their family commitment to the Saginaw community for many years. Thank you to the board for allowing us to give this presentation tonight and honor Brian Yelton. A North Texas native, his first job was working for Taco Casa at 16 years old. He and his best friend bought a Taco Casa in Oklahoma in 1987. He was just 22 years old. Today, Brian owns 3 restaurants, including the Taco Casa in Saginaw. Brian Yelton and Taco Casa and the Taco Casa family are incredibly supportive for EMS ISD. When asked why he sponsors so generously, he said to me, "It's very important to be involved with the teachers as they are the core of our business. It's a way to give back to a community that has given so much to us." Over the last 30 years that Brian has owned and operated Taco Casa in Saginaw, his work in the community has been visible, highly visible. We've all held the yellow and orange cups and Taco Casa totes. From school sporting and fine arts events to local Little League fields, PTA carnivals, and parent-led community enrichment activities. These extracurricular and family engagement opportunities are the essence of public education goals through community partnerships. Educators understand that programs outside of curriculum can be just as influential to a child's success. And they depend on generous business leaders like Brian. We are so grateful for the sponsorship of youth-led initiatives, parent volunteer programs, school events, and social enrichment projects through Taco Casa's paramount $500,000 in donations, about $20,000 each year. Taco Casa's support goes primarily to offsetting concession stand costs so that service groups can provide college scholarships and fundraising abilities. Providing this exceptional service to the community and leaving an even bigger donor impact, empowering these nonprofits to provide scholarships is quite the vision. Scholarships are also a big part of why we acknowledge you tonight. Taco Casa donates 3 scholarships to our Education Foundation, honoring students from each of our high schools. These students are hardworking, highly academically achieving students showing great character. Brian, it was our honor to nominate you for the state level award and all that you do to support public education. I'd like to ask for you and Shonda to join me as Megan will deliver this award.
Here at EMS ISD, we know the value and support we've received from Taco Casa, and we are deeply appreciative of this partnership. The Texas Association of School Boards joins with us in honoring your commitment to our schools. We'd like to present this recognition to you in grateful appreciation for all you've done for our district and community. You get this lovely certificate, and there is a lapel pin that you can wear proudly. We hope you will continue your work to stand up for Texas public schools, and through this honor that you're able to encourage others to join with you in your support. Thank you for your continued service.
On behalf of Taco Casa,
All right, Megan, proclaim January 2021 as School Board Recognition Month.
Yes, finally getting to think about January 2021. Our final presentation in this portion of the meeting is a very special one. Each year, the governor and the Texas Association of School Boards designates the month of January as a School Board Recognition Month. Now, we know that you volunteer your time because you care about our community, our school, our students, and while we certainly don't limit our appreciation to the month of January, we do join the statewide effort to celebrate and thank you. As part of the official proclamation, there's a document in the board packet that includes all of the whereas legal language. Rather than read that through tonight, I'd like to highlight a few key pieces that reflect the service of our board, both collectively and as individual members. First, our school board members are committed to children and believe that all children can be successful learners. You also believe that the best education is tailored to the individual needs of the child, as reflected in your support of the personalized education plans that are detailed in our Aspire 2022 and our future 2025 strategic plans. You take your role as community ambassadors to heart, and you work closely with all stakeholders to create the educational vision that we desire for our students. You're responsible, of course, for ensuring a strong fiscal foundation for our district, and your involvement proves you are strong advocates for public education. So for these and for many other reasons, we thank you for your service and hereby proclaim the month of January 2021 as School Board Recognition Month in Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD. This year's statewide theme is Navigating to Success. So next month, as is tradition, these walls and these halls will be filled with posters and tokens of gratitude from our campuses. We encourage all of our citizens to join us in recognizing the contributions of our school board members and thanking them for their dedication to the students and employees of EMS ISD. More is going to be coming on this next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. All right, that concludes the communication section of our meeting. We now go to action items, and first is to award the contract for the new administration building. Mr. Clete Welch.
On the administration project, we did an RFP for this project. And so we had a total of 11 bidders turn in Part A. 2 of those chose not to turn in on Part B. So we had 9 solid bidders to evaluate, and they sent us several binders, and we looked through the data that they have given us, and we actually, what we requested. And we pull those binders apart, we look at the stuff that we showed them we were going to grade them on, and we go and we find that, and we evaluate that through the process that you can see on your spreadsheet of the 10 areas that we look at. So price is 40% of that. That's obviously the biggest amount in that chart. But before I get in that, when I talk about the 9 that we evaluated that turned it in, the magnitude of, when I say the quality, these contractors, and not all of them, but 6 of them have contributed close to 15 schools and 2 district facilities and numerous renovations. So these are people that have groups that we have utilized before, and they keep coming back and trying to get our work. So we appreciate all the effort that they put together, and it makes a tough decision. So I just want to make sure that we said that. So going back to the price, it's the 40%, and the part with the days, those are set in stone as far as low to high, and that's just a formula that they're given. And then the things that you really have to look at of all this information is when you go look at their schedule, how detailed is the schedule, making sure they didn't leave something out. When you look at the project personnel? Who was their project manager? Who is their estimator? Who is the superintendent? So we look at the resume of the superintendent because that's going to help drive the whole project. How long have they been with the company? Do they jump around? Do they not? Have they been solid? And you look at their references of other projects that they have led. So gives you just a small detail. The next big thing we look at is subcontractors. So there were 28 areas that they had to provide a list of subcontractors. And so they had to give 3 per. And so when you look at that, did they take time to put the resume together? How long have they worked for the company, or was it just something that they, somebody just turned something in? So you try to evaluate and tear that apart and look, and then Rob did help us with the financial background. And I didn't mention that we had 5 total district personnel that worked on this. Billy, Dwayne, myself, and Kurt Murdoch, and of course Rob. And then we had Lisa Barterman with BLK, their group, kind of helped get us organized and do that part for us. Claims and suits and the quality program, that was a 2-point. Probably the last one, the project approach, with where that project is located. We asked that the group, we did a pre-bid meeting where they had the opportunity to meet us on site to go to this piece of property. And not everybody participated in that. Some did, some didn't. But again, it was amount of, we wanted to know who was going to show there, how delicate and how detailed some of the trees and how the environment was going to be protected in this area. So we took a lot of effort and we valued that points in this project. So when you put all this together, it's you start to get a feel for who embraced the project in Eagle Mountain Saginaw versus maybe one that, well, it's there, but it really wasn't tailored toward us. So when you put all that together, we came with a recommendation for Pogue Construction. If there's any questions or anything with this, I'll be glad to answer.
It's amazing how close, so there are 9 bids here, how close they are. Is that pretty common?
We feel like with their estimate, I mean, yes, because it's just tight, so it's just some variations in there. And so, either it's you hope they didn't miss anything within that, but you don't see that great variation. So it's just a matter of how much money they're going to.
That's really a good sign. We like to see that. I mean, not all 9 of them didn't miss it. And, the certain thing that could be changing those bids, but it was amazing how close they all were.
Are we ready for a motion?
Without any other questions, Marilyn, the chair would entertain a motion. Go ahead.
I move that we enter into a negotiations on the contract for the new administration building with the highest ranking contractor, Pogue Construction, for the not to exceed amount included in the RFP of $34 million. In the event the district is unsuccessful in negotiating the contract with Pogue Construction, the board authorizes the administration to cease negotiations and move to the next highest ranking contractor or contractors until a contract can be successfully negotiated.
Second.
Motion by Marilyn, second by Liz. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Clete. Thank you, Lisa. All right, Mr. Rob Welch.
Make a motion to award the quote of annual HVAC air filter services to Filter Systems for a total of $140,511.11.
Second.
What is that? Raise your hand. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't tell. Motion by Tim, second by Liz. Any questions? Mr. Welch, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 6-0. Next is to consider approving
I move to approve the revised spring 2021 school calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion by Liz, second by Marilyn. Any questions? None. All those in favor, raise your hand. You're trying to get ahead of me, Paige. Motion carries 6-0. All right, next is to consider approving an emergency paid sick leave provisions of families under the first Coronavirus Response Act. Dr. Dawkins.
Yes.
President Newcomb, members of the board, Dr. Chadwell, I just wanted to bring to your attention a proposal to continue the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It is due to expire in December 31st. And what that provision was is for employers such as us that we would provide 10 days of paid sick leave when an employee was out on a COVID-related leave. And so with that expiring, it would be, employees would be affected beginning January 1st and wouldn't be eligible for that benefit. We just believe strongly in that benefit, and so we would like to continue it through June 30th, 2021, which is really the end of the contract year for most of our employees. And so we'd want consideration for that. It may be extended anyway. The federal government may extend that, but we wanted to be proactive and be sure that we provided that benefit for our employees.
I move that the board approve of this resolution as presented by Dr. Dawkins.
Second.
Motion by Liz, second by Marilyn, and the resolution followed there on page 65 and 6, I believe. Any questions on it? Yes, sir, Mr. Doctor.
So we don't, no employee gets docked for having to be quarantined from the virus. Is that correct?
For 10 days. This provides for 10 days. And then it also depends if the employee is able to perform their work from home, work remotely.
I'm just saying if we, however we do it, that part doesn't matter. But I just want to know that a teacher is not getting docked any pay for them having to be quarantined because they come in contact tracing and all that stuff. If we send them home, even if they've been sent home for 60 days, they should still be getting their paycheck regardless.
Right. We've been working with our teachers though, and have been providing, I think we talked about this before, a substitute in their class and letting them work remote while they're under quarantine and then coming back. So, but
no teachers getting docked any pay for having to be missing days for the COVID stuff.
I can't say definitively no, because sometimes it might depend on the position. But we've been working with teachers, and we did make that a provision that teachers would be able to work remotely.
What difference would it make what position it is if we send them home?
You're right. If we send them home, are you saying like a work-related?
I'm saying exposure? Contact tracing.
Right.
You've got to go because you came in contact. You should never lose a single penny of your pay. I'm just saying for aides, teachers, anybody that falls under those guidelines, they're not losing a penny of their salary for those reasons. Correct?
Every case is different because some people are also caring for someone at home that might affect their decision on when to return. So it may be that they have days that they are.
I'm not saying if they choose to stay longer. I'm saying we mandate that they cannot come back till day such and such. They can, none of them are getting docked any money for those days, are they?
This particular act only has a maximum number of days.
10 days.
What I would ask Dr. Dawkins to do is put together something we send to y'all. The number may be 0, but I can't say that definitively because the federal act only protects so many days. Don't disagree with you. I mean, if we send somebody home.
Correct.
I'm just saying if we've cut somebody's pay for that, I think we need to give them their money back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't think we ought to punish a teacher for being sent home and punish them for sending them and cutting their pay. I mean, I don't think we would do that. But I'm just asking the question.
If we were to do that, something outside of this, we would need to pass a resolution similar to what we did when we did the resolution in the spring to pay people when they were not working, because there is systems in place that people have to meet certain measures. In this case, the federal is overriding it. There's funds that are available from the federal government to cover it. If we were to do that internally for people not to be in work because of reasons related to their work, then we would need to pass a resolution for us to continue to pay them, which is something we could do. I mean, that's not a difficult thing to do. And again, the number may be 0. I don't have that right off the top of my head of how many that are affected, because the vast majority of the people that are teachers are still continuing to work. They're not taking any quarantine days at all.
Correct.
They're just working virtually. But we're talking about all employees, 2,800 employees. It could be a
Yes.
a cafeteria worker or a.
I mean, I was just asking the question, and that I'd get oh, no, no one's going to lose any money for that. But that's not the response I'm getting.
Well, we can't pay them without direction from y'all to pay them, because.
But we sent them home.
I'm not arguing the logic. I agree with you in terms of what you're saying, but for us to legally pay somebody, it can't be a gift to public funds. If they're here, it has to be attributed to a day. There has to be a coverage for a day. So for us not to, most people have, for example, leave days. They have built up leave days. So for us not to use one of those leave days, we would have to add additional days of a benefit to them to pull those days. These are actually coded in the system as federal, I guess it's Crone Act.
Family First
Family First,
Response Act days, right. So, but what we've done with teachers is we've made provisions to have a substitute or an aide or coverage in the class so that they can work remotely and not be docked.
I understand. I mean,
But-
I get all that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what everybody else's feelings are on that, but I mean, I would hate to see any employee lose money for a reason that out of their control that we send them home for.
It sounds like what we need to do is look and see.
We will.
Like we don't know whether or not we've done that. And so I think that would be the starting point, and then we can see if there's any action that needs to be taken as a result of what we are or aren't doing currently.
And one reason we don't is because usually it's not a question of money, it's a question of days. Most people have so many leave days they have, and so we would need direction from y'all if you want us not to use their leave days.
But my concern on that as well is a person is sitting here and being, because, you know, when you retire, you can use up to 50 days to purchase a year.
I understand.
You can do, there's a lot of different, you actually get a little bit of money if you have days left from the school district if you retire from here. So, I mean, even
or they could get sick later.
And they can get sick later. So I think that if they're being sent home for a corona-related issue and it's out of their control, I don't think they should have to use their own personal sick days for that either.
But a lot of them, just like Dr. Dawkins said, they teach remotely. So therefore, it's just, the playing field is level. It's like they're showing up for work anyway.
I understand, but there's some that may not. I just don't want someone to be punished and hurt in a way that's not their fault. But, you know, and I guess y'all will come up with a number and let us know if that's happening.
Let me kind of reframe this. It may help some. Is the federal days have really addressed the vast majority of this, because unless someone's quarantined more than once, typically the federal days, and what she has tonight is an extension of that locally, which is in part what you're asking for. But the other part of what you're asking for is for it to be unlimited. So if they're quarantined more than one time, which is something different, and that's something we can bring to y'all. So far, unless somebody's, and this is why we're pausing here, unless someone's been quarantined more than once and they've run out of these days that have been provided by the government, then they're fine. But for those that, for example, quarantined 2-3 times, I mean, we know that could occur. We would need to internally, I'm sorry?
Kids have been quarantined that many times, so I can't imagine we don't have
that personally
that haven't been quarantined multiple times as well.
Yeah. No, I understand that personally, I do. And so we would just need to pass a resolution that basically says that we are going to create our own additional leave days that we would provide, because when we're in the system, you have to code it something. You have to code it either local leave, vacation, state leave. It's one of those 3 depending on the classification of employee. And now we have a 4th one with this. This would be a 5th, which we could create. And so we'll bring that back to y'all in January if that's the will of the board. And
I'm guessing it's not, because I think we would have heard about it. I think
because this act
I feel like this is actually probably has covered everybody, but just on the state.
In addition though, if a teacher is able to work remotely and we made that adjustment where we put a sub in the class and then the teacher's remote for the quarantine period. They're actually not using FFCRA days because they're actually working. They're just working from home. So we have people that may have been out a couple of times that have never used an FFCRA day.
I don't think this is really more of a teacher issue. I think it's a
not.
non-teacher issue.
It'd have to be a cafeteria
really-
worker.
Right.
or a
Correct.
bus
It's
or-
potentially for
Now,
people
all that
are-
being said, and just to make sure we paint the full picture, it could be a teacher who is COVID positive, who's ill and unable to teach. And perhaps that's coupled with another quarantine. It could be something like that. So
Right.
this measure would allow us to make sure that we address that. And the resolution could also include going back. If we do have somebody, and off the top of my head, I think I would have heard about it, like Ms. Ring said,
Right.
if we had, that we can go back to the back and add those days back. That's not a problem. And we can bring that to you for review and in January and action if you would like.
I mean, I think you're doing good. It sounds, I mean, letting them do remote, I just don't want someone to be punished punitively, financially, for something that they really have no control over.
Right. And we do have we have lengthy conversations with every employee and then do the contact tracing and where their exposure was, whether it was exposed, as a work-related exposure or, outside of work. And so we spend a lot of time with employees and work with them on their, on their days. We do have some teachers that might start to teach remotely for a few days and then they begin experiencing symptoms. And so then they might use a couple of their days because they really were experiencing, symptoms. So, and not working remotely, but it's been really.
But, then again on that, even if they've tested positive, they say, after 7 days, if you test, once you test negative, should they be able to come back to work? And we're telling them they can't, and they're sitting there with a negative test. And yet, again, I don't think they should have to be using their own personal sick days for that because they're actually ready to come back to school and they're negative. But yet the rules and stuff won't allow that to happen.
I think this particular report that was going to turn into action in January can probably cover it as I'm sitting here thinking about it, because this is actually something we were assuming responsibility for, because as she said, it was going to expire in December anyway. Come January 1, it was going to be on our dime locally. So we were going to extend these additional FFCRA EMS days, if you want to keep with acronyms, to cover that. And so simply what we would have to do there is to make sure we would add the number of days necessary to cover any forced quarantine situations.
But it sounds like we should go ahead and take action on this now because you may need these starting January 1st.
Yes.
And these are getting used.
No, I agree.
They're getting used, you're sure of that.
We
may have an additional issue.
We have a motion and a second, so this was just in the discussion part, so I think they can go back and look at that and bring forth the appropriate recommendations.
Let me ask, and just for a point of dialogue, since this is for action tonight, should we ask for any modification to this to include what has been requested tonight? And then we could bring it back to you for confirmation in January. But that would give us some ability if the direction that we're receiving is to have no person on a forced quarantine have any of their own personal days, whether they be vacation, local, state days, then they would fall under this. And if we get that direction, we can put that into place and make that effective January 1 and just basically bring you back language to explain how we would do that.
I have a question. Do the employees have this would it be Skyward, where they can see that they have these 10 federal days and then as they
that information, all of this information on FFCRA is on our website where we have our COVID-19 information, we have employee information. So we have that available for them, but when we get a report of someone who's either got to be quarantined or been exposed like that, then Amber Galloway and Kim Waiters in my department work with them individually and talk about the days. And then whatever days of these, so let's say it's a person who's not able to work remotely, okay, a position in the district that's not able to work remotely. They may only, depending on date of exposure, they may only use 6 of the days, not of the 10. So we've kept track and banked the other 4. Payroll's done a great job on that and saving those. What would happen though for employees when this expires on December 31st, which it does, then come January 1st, if you happen to get exposed and you're not able to work remotely, then you would not get the benefit of these 10 days that other people received effective April 1st, because the act's been from April 1st to December 31st. So that's been a nice benefit for people that we've needed to provide by direction of the federal government. Since that's expiring, it really would catch people where you would have people that potentially didn't use any of their days just by the chance of when they were quarantined versus somebody who's got to be quarantined in January, then they would not have the extended leave days provided. And so in talking with Dr. Chadwell and Rob, we just really felt that it was important to provide that benefit, to extend that benefit.
If we do what Jim just said a while ago, then that would cover, for my concerns, that would cover
So we're taking
everything.
2 actions. We're going to take action on.
Yeah, I don't
right
think
now.
I don't think we can do what y'all are asking
And
to
then
do
you're going to
because
come
of the
back and
action.
possibly modify this in January. That's all I think we can do.
Yes, we can bring it back. In the worst
we can
case,
modify the
say in the worst
list.
case, we have a situation happens before the January meeting, we can always go back and put leave. It is incredibly rare that people don't have leave days to pull from. And so if for whatever reason we have to, because we haven't had it passed yet before the next January meeting, we have to use a leave day, we can always come back and put it back. I think, Ms. Hafley, you had a question about the days. I think you're talking about even when you're in Skyward, you see everything listed and you can choose. I think that's part of your question.
Yes.
Is that it never shows up at all. It actually is put in by Human Resources, I guess. And so they don't manually select it. It's automatic. It's done. And then later it would show up in their report, but they can't actually select it like on that menu. They can't actually select it. It's done.
Does it come out separately on the check stub?
No.
FFCRA is coded. Rob, I don't have a check stub.
Does it come out?
Days are coded FFCRA as a leave day.
I would think it would, but I don't.
But it's not docked, so it's not.
Right, but I mean,
Your is on your check stub.
Your check stub's usually broken down between your pay, so it tracks those days. I don't know if it does or not. I guess that's what I'm asking.
No, sir.
I don't believe that it shows up on the check stub per se because we don't make it visible in the system. Because it's not selectable. It's administratively selectable. Based on being eligible and meeting the qualifications. Because there are specific instances and specific situations that meet the qualifications for using FFCRA. There's about 6 specific criteria that have to be, or one of the 6 have to be met. So it's not just
it's not just you yourself. It can be you're caring for someone.
Right. And it's not just COVID related. No, it's very specific in how it can be utilized and what it's eligible to utilize.
And that's a good point that we need clarification on, just to make sure we have the interest of the board here, is that it is broader, which means that somebody could use FFCRA because a family member is ill, which then causes them to be quarantined. But what I'm hearing y'all say, it would be our forced quarantine. It would be our compelling them. It wouldn't be because if we mirrored FFCRA completely, then it would be a lot broader than just people who are affected because of their employment. It could be because of a family member. And so I'm hearing of narrowing it, yes, having it unlimited, if you will, as many times as someone's quarantined, but narrow it, which we would know documentation wise, that it's somebody being quarantined because we're telling them to go home.
I would extend the benefit just as it is right now,
Yes.
that everybody's got for the first half of the year. And then I would add a piece only when it's a forced quarantine. So if it's
That's what I'm hearing. So if that's okay with y'all.
Y'all can come back to that and that. Yes,
So are we talking about forced quarantine from school? Like, now, if you're at the grocery store and that's where you were near COVID.
That's what
we're not talking about that, right?
That's what I'm hearing
Is that
that.
what you're suggesting?
That's what this would be.
Could you rephrase what, Ms. Ring, what you just said? I think that kind of
So, yeah, so
encapsulates.
I think right now it covers, as I read it, it would cover any situation where somebody had to be quarantined and we couldn't work with them to put them in some sort of a working situation, right? They can use it for 10 days if it's a family member that they need to care for or whatever.
Child.
And I would say we have that benefit for the first half of the year, continue the 10 days.
Right.
And then I would say above 10 days, that should only be when we have told them that they need to quarantine.
For example, in my case, I've not had to use any of those days. So on January 1st, I would be eligible for 10 days. However, say I had used those 10 days, then I would be out of FFCRA days, which this other provision would allow me to use local leave days that we've assigned for forced quarantine. Now, there potentially could be a combination of, again, you could use FFCRA, you could have used 10 days that have nothing to do with the school district. It could have been done with what is happening at home.
But people have already had that benefit
Right.
for the first half of the year. So
They
then
have.
we'd be penalizing people just because of when
Exactly.
it hit them, you know, I think.
So
it's
there
fair to
won't be a
continue
complete parity, but I think it's fair because people are this is a very unique time, unique situation, and this is not going to be forever. So I'm fine with that difference there, especially since we're taking care of people that have been quarantined because they've been compelled to by the district.
All right, so y'all have a clear understanding, I think, of what to bring back in January. The motion at this time by Liz and seconded by Marilyn was to consider the resolution as presented by Dr. Dawkins and as attached in the 3 or 4 pages afterwards. Are there any other questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Dawkins. We did complete all the reports of the superintendent in our 5 o'clock session. So we move on now to routine monthly reports. Are there any questions on the routine monthly reports? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to the 2021 board planning calendar, page 116, Dr. Check.
Yes, sir. For the January meeting, we have finance report. We're going to start budget update, and we're putting the groundwork in for the 21-22 budget. In fact, we were having conversations about that just this morning. We also have an audit update. You'll see that under action as well. They've been working with our finance department currently, budget and finance department. Under operations, construction update, transportation update, and then the many staffing reports that y'all experienced in the spring. And we're using the system we started last year in terms of numbering those for clarity. And then we also have a GT Humanities report, as mentioned earlier, School Board Recognition Month. We also have to conduct public hearing for the TAPER report, and I just want to let y'all know that this report will be different than the previous ones because of the absence of A through F system and STAR. It's really more of a financial and personnel report, but we will provide you that data, and there's also, of course, a public hearing for that, but Dr. Parker will put all that together for you. It'll just be absent a lot of the academic information that's usually in that meeting. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chabel. That brings us to the consent agenda for approval.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Tim, second by Liz. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. As far as board president announcements, thank you for all the gifts and cards that were at our place, and I know the board wishes each of you out there a very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, 4 more days, and you made it to the 2-week. We're hoping that helps our quarantine situation,
Yes.
Dr. Chapel, and gets everybody back at school. But we appreciate all the efforts that your team has been doing and leading us through this time. And
thank you.
I know y'all are as ready for that Christmas break as anybody. So,
Yes.
So I know you're looking forward to it. Anything else from you, Dr. Chapel?
Yes, sir. Just echoing what you said. We had our leadership team meeting this morning. I was just sharing with our team how thankful I am for each of them, and I can extend that to all the 2,800 employees in our board that serves the district. This is ending a year that people will always remember, not in a real good way. I mean, 2020 sounds like it would be such a great year. Not so much. I think we're all ready for a redo next year. And I've been just so impressed with how people have stood up to the challenges and the difficulties in order to do what's best for children. And as I go into classrooms and talk to parents and students and of course our staff, I'm endlessly amazed by the efforts that are going on right now in our homes with 34% of our students that are remote, and our 66% of our students that are in person, and all the various things that are happening. It's been really, really challenging, obviously, but people have done their very best to provide support for our kids. And so thank y'all as a board for doing that. I know we'll talk about that a lot in January, but that can't be done without leadership at the top to make sure we have the resources we need and to watch what's been done in our classrooms in terms of technology and instructional support. But we can all acknowledge that it goes beyond that. It's what's happening with kids socially and emotionally and the challenges that go on with that. And we will not take our foot off the gas in helping to support kids throughout this year. So thank y'all.
You bet. I'll also point out we had an Aspire 2025 at our place. Is this the final draft to look at?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Great.
I forgot to mention that. Seeing there's no further business to come before this board, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Marilyn made the motion, Liz seconded it. We'll see y'all next year.